What is up, y'all? Welcome back to episode 70 of That's No Moon Pod. We got to talk about the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer that just dropped. This movie looks incredible. It looks like the whole reason people fell in love with the MCU movies. Um, just the vibes around this trailer leading up to this movie, it just feels like we're back. Feels like we're back years ago whenever Marvel would drop a trailer for their movie and just the excitement and the anticipation from all of us fans. It just feels like how it used to feel. Um, from what's going on in the trailer, from what we got compared to the one that dropped during the Super Bowl, it's a lot of Wolverine, which I'm glad that they showed a lot more of. Um, we get that opening scene with him in the bar, and he's getting refused service because he's not welcome there. And we kind of find out that that version of Wolverine let down his universe, and there's that quick glimpse of him falling to his knees, and he's kind of surrounded by these looks like monuments or some kind of gravestones. So it could be that that version of Wolverine ended up killing the X-Men. Um, I know there's some stories in the comic books to where that actually happened, where he pretty much gets mind controlled or whatever, and he goes into this rage mode and he ends up killing the X-Men. And I wonder if we're actually going to see some of those scenes, which I'm hoping we do. Um, just getting some kind of glimpse of the X-Men in this movie, I think would be super cool. Um, but just the banter that these guys have between one another, um, it's gonna have like that funny buddy cop type vibe to it. I'm feeling. Um, the chemistry between Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman is on another level. They're real good friends, you could tell. Um, the action, the choreography, and the cinematography looks like it's going to be is really well done. Sean Levy, he's a really good filmmaker, and he has real good chemistry with Ryan Reynolds, obviously. And just the love for Deadpool um, that Ryan Reynolds has. I know that he really wants to make this movie epic, and I think they're going to do a real good job with it. Um, I'm curious to see, okay, if this version of the Wolverine he ends up killing the X Men or whatever. Um, so Deadpool, with the help of the TVA, winds up in that universe and brings him back to help with whatever mission that Deadpool's on. Because it seems like they're both real down bad. Um, I think Deadpool and Vanessa aren't together, and I'm sure something's going down to where all of his friends are either going to get wiped out or something like that. And he's going to need the help of Wolverine to help save his universe, but also kind of help Wolverine redeem himself in some kind of way. Um, we finally get some scenes with Cassandra Nova, who's going to be the villain in this movie. And Cassandra Nova is pretty much um, Charles Xavier's twin sister. And I think she was either killed by Charles and she somehow kept her essence alive, and then she was able to eventually kind of resurrect herself in some kind of way. And she's actually the one that's responsible for the whole attack of Genosha that we see in X Men '97. Um, I'm not so sure if that's how the animated show, is going to play out with Cassandra Nova. They might put some kind of twist on that, but she's super powerful and super capable of being able to kind of hold her own um, with someone like Wolverine and Deadpool. We see that scene with her and Wolverine's kind of he's trying to attack her, but she's just able to use her abilities just to kind of brush off his strikes away with ease, pretty much. Um, so it looks like we're gonna get a super powerful villain, and which is good because I think Marvel has a really tough time. It seems like to really nail a villain that's memorable and kind of feels like they're an actual threat to the heroes in the movie, and with someone that basically has all the powers of Charles Xavier but uses it for evil instead. Um, they really got a good person to be able to take the reins as the villain of the movie. Uh, I'm so glad that they were able to greenlight this project in the way that we all want a Deadpool movie to be. I know a lot of us were concerned that they're going to release a Deadpool movie within the whole Disney Marvel universe, and whether or not it was going to be rated R and raunchy like how the first two movies were. But clearly, it looks like they're not holding back. A lot of the jokes are really raunchy, and they're going to be just as crazy as they were in the first two films, which is good because I think them letting this movie be rated R and just have crazy over the top violence and jokes is just going to get more people willing to go and watch this movie in the theaters. And again, the vibes of this movie just feel right. Like you go to the comments and just the overall reactions that you see on the internet, it seems like everyone's really digging it. And I think the anticipation of this movie, it just feels like how the Marvel movies used to feel like a few years back. Um, I'm wondering what they're gonna do exactly with the whole TVA, whether or not Cassandra Nova has some kind of control over the TVA, and they're kind of making um, Deadpool kind of do this whole mission, and he eventually pretty much sees what's really going on, and he's trying to get Wolverine to help him out. Um, because I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a lot of people that go into this movie that haven't seen Loki, and they have no idea what the TVA is. So I'm sure they're gonna do some kind of way to be able to explain everything in a simple, um, just a simple way to be able to not get those people lost in what's really going on with the TVA and who they are. Because we see Deadpool and Wolverine, they're fighting the TVA agents, and it looks like they're fighting them on that opening scene from Age of Ultron. So we're clearly going to be going back and forth or just hopping around from different timelines and different movies, which is going to be funny just seeing Deadpool interacting with all these different timelines and universes. Um, I'm wondering if they're going to do a whole fight with Wolverine and the Hulk, which I think they could do in this movie, especially if they go back to the Age of Ultron scenes, or maybe they go back to the Battle of New York from the first Avengers, and Wolverine and the Hulk are somehow confronted, and they get a good fight scene in because we all know the from the comic books those two have a lot of beef and a lot of history, and I know I've read a lot of comics where those two are fighting each other, and um, being able to see that on screen live action, because I think I've said this in other episodes as well, where I think the Hulk to me I feel like has not been done justice enough in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think they really need to find some way to be able to get that character more over, because everyone knows who the Hulk is. Everyone loves the Hulk. Kids, everyone, people love the Hulk. He's a one of the more popular characters in all of comic books, not just Marvel. Um, and if they're able to somehow, whether it's Mark Ruffalo or some other version of the Hulk, Eric Bana, um, whoever it is, uh, if they're able to somehow bring the Hulk into this movie as well, because there's going to be some crazy cameos. We already know whether or not they're actually going to be able to bring in some alternate versions of the X-Men, or they could just bring in the OG ones from the Fox universe in this movie, and we get some kind of cool scenes between them and Deadpool. Um, but they're going to be able to do a lot of crazy things, a lot of things that I think that we thought um, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was going to do. I think this movie is going to do that, but just even 10 times crazier. Because that's pretty much what the movie's about. We're going to get these two jumping around from different timelines. And we see that scene at the end of the trailer where it looks like Deadpool and Wolverine, they're jumping into some kind of portal that looks like um, the Doctor Strange portal from the end of Endgame. Whether or not we get Doctor Strange cameo or we get a Wong cameo, um, and they cut off the trailer pretty much before we get that funny scene at the end between they're talking about Kevin Feige and what's allowed to be said and this and that. Um, but I think they put that in the trailer to obviously let us know, okay, there's going to be some kind of tie-in with Doctor Strange somehow, and whether that's going to be how they are jumping around from each timeline or that's how they eventually come into the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it. Um, there's just going to be a whole lot of craziness. I'm loving the whole buddy cop vibe to it. Um, and just the humor and the action is going to be so over the top. Um, there's going to be a bunch of crazy Easter eggs. Um, you got that one clip where they have that giant Ant-Man helmet, and it looks like it's his skull too as well. And it kind of opens up, and I'm wondering, what happened to Ant-Man in this universe to make them to able to actually get his suit and his helmet and use it for whatever they're using it for. Um, we saw that quick glimpse of Azazel from X-Men First Class, and I was a big fan of X-Men First Class, still am. Um, so if we're getting Azazel, um, I'm thinking we're probably going to get some cameos from uh, Michael Fassbender, Magneto, or James McAvoy, Charles Xavier. Um, just the possibilities with this movie seem like it's endless. Um, I'm not sure the runtime on the movie, but I'm assuming it has to be a pretty decent runtime just for them to be able to get all these different characters in this movie and kind of make the story feel congruent. Um, but again, I'm hoping Cassandra Nova plays well on screen. Um, we need a good villain. Feels like it's been forever since we've had a real good villain in Marvel movies. Um, but it also feels like it's been a real long time since we've gotten a really good Marvel movie, to be honest. Um, but I'm super stoked, y'all. I can't wait. Again, the vibes just feel right with this movie. Um, the anticipation, everyone in the comments, and just the reactions, just everything seems like it's going the right way. And I think the people involved in the movie are, they should be real excited for just overall the reaction that this movie's getting already. But we're only a couple months away, and I'm hoping that this leads into more just X-Men stuff because I've said this before. I think Marvel just needs to listen to the fans and figure out, okay, what has worked so far and what are people really wanting from us going forward. Because it's clearly not these side characters that they're trying to make into main characters. Um, they got to stop doing, these shows or announcing these movies with these characters that people aren't really asking for. Um, they got to stick with what they know people would want. Um, Again, I said that with the Hulk, but the X-Men, we know they're doing the Fantastic Four movie that's coming out, which is good. I think Fantastic Four, easily one of the more popular characters within the Marvel universe. Um, so if they could kind of like build on all that with the Fantastic Four, and then throw in these X-Men movies, um, whether or not it's a full-on X-Men trilogy, um, I'm thinking that they could somehow do something to where it eventually ends up being a kind of Avengers versus X-Men storyline, like from the comic books, because that storyline was really popular. I remember when it came out, everyone was talking about that. And I think if they could kind of find some way to do that with the fans, because with the Civil War movie, it forced all of us to kind of pick a side, right? Like we all love these characters, and to see them kind of beefing with one another and making all of us while watching it, feel for each side, and you could kind of see where both sides were coming from, but it still forced all of us to kind of which side were you on? Were you on Team Cap or were you Team Iron Man? Um, I was always Team Iron Man. Even that fight at the end between Iron Man, Captain America, and the Winter Soldier, I was rooting for Iron Man. I still think Iron Man won that fight, even though he technically didn't. But um, I was all about the Team Iron Man. That was the side I chose. And again, right now, just kind of how they've set things up with the future Avengers on whoever it's going to be, I think it would kind of make sense for them to kind of force all of us to kind of pick a side on who's right and who's wrong. Um, we all know how the X Men, they always feel like, they're trying to protect their own first and foremost, but they do care about humanity. It's just like humanity doesn't care about them. So if they're gonna hopefully find some kind of way to be able to make that play on screen to where to whenever they bring in the X-Men, it makes all of us, want to root for them, but we also see the flaws in whoever they're fighting. Because again, I don't right now I just don't see an Avengers movie unless they bring in the OGs somehow, which is always a possibility. But um, future Avengers projects just doesn't seem like any kind of hype is surrounding that whole possibility. Um, I think whenever this movie comes out, it's just gonna want people to be asking for more X Men, and just the way that X Men '97, the animated shows, really playing well. Just the fans are loving the show. I am too personally. I think um, that and the Bad Batch are easily the you know, two of the best shows that are going right now. Um, and just the way that they're able to play these storylines with the X Men in the animated show, and um, they're able to somehow make that work live action on screen. Uh, I think it's just gonna get the ball rolling even more for the Marvel universe, um, and they need it. They don't need to be messing around with these side characters. Give us an X Men movie. Give us what we really want and what the fans have been asking for. Um, I'm pretty sure gonna start listening to more of the fans because, again, them doing things that they know works. We saw that with um, the whole Daredevil show that's coming out soon. They had gotten rid of Foggy, and they were gonna kind of do this whole different take on Daredevil, but they saw the reaction that it got leading up to it, and they pretty much um, scrapped the whole thing and listened to the fans. They're bringing in John Bernthal, the Punisher. They're bringing back Foggy, and they're pretty much going to be doing what the whole Netflix version of the Daredevil show is doing with this upcoming season, which is good because, again, the fans at the end of the day know best. Um, we're the ones that are going to be paying for this stuff, going to go watch it, and at the end of the day, we're the ones that they really got to please. They obviously got to be able to, get the casual fans in theaters and tuning into the shows, but um, the fans are really the gauge on I think what would actually work within these shows and movies. Um, I think the more and more that they listen to the fans and um, lean heavily into the characters that are really loved and are really wanting to be seen on screen, I think it's just gonna be the better for Marvel Universe as a whole. I'm hoping Lucasfilm could, you know, take a page out of that book, um, but that remains to be seen. But yeah, X-Men '97, Deadpool and Wolverine, those two things right now are pretty much the hot topic right now. Um, if you're not watching X-Men '97, I highly recommend it. The show keeps getting better and better each week. I'm loving how they're able to throw in these different vibes within such a short timeline. Um, the show has like the soap opera feel at times with Cyclops and Jean Grey. Um, it's really violent and dark in a way. The whole scene with Genosha and the Wild Sentinels attacking and seeing what happens to Gambit, and um, it's all feeling like it's leading up to something big at the end as well. Um, but they clearly know what they're doing with the show, um, and it looks like they have a good, vibe on what the fans want from the X Men as well. I'm curious to see if that whole deal with Monica Rambeau waking up in the hospital with Beast at the end of the Marvels somehow ties into Deadpool and Wolverine or any kind of future project that's set to drop. But yeah, y'all let me know what y'all think. How stoked are y'all for Deadpool and Wolverine? Um, I'm posting new releases and variant covers of comic books on my IG and Snapchat. The links to my socials will be down in the description. I think Instagram's doing a thing now to where you can post more than 10 pictures now on a post. And what I would normally do is I'd upload the variant covers and just like a few different screenshots of certain pages from the comic book. But I think now I'll actually be able to post majority of the actual comic book on my IG. So if you're into comic books or if you're not and you're trying to get into them, go follow my IG. I'm posting new releases. Um, yeah, thanks for tuning in, y'all. Episode 70. It's crazy to say I'm 70 episodes deep into this, but we're going to keep it rolling for 70 more and 70 after that. We're going to keep trying to evolve this podcast into something bigger and keep pumping these out for y'all. Um, yeah, like, comment, subscribe. And until next ep, y'all stay safe, and I'll catch y'all on the flip. Peace.